Good morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Sunday, 13th July 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. India's stock markets saw a mixed start, influenced by valuation worries and lackluster WHAM earnings. The Nifty 50 had previously achieved an 8.5% return in the first quarter, with mid and small cap stocks showing strong performance. Several companies, including Tata Technologies, Ola Electric Mobility, Nelco, HCL Technologies, SR India, and Hathway Datacom, are set to announce their Q1 results. GIFT Nifty suggests a possible negative opening for Indian indices. Experts are recommending stocks like Asahi India Glass, Syrma SGS Technology, Rallis India, NTT Green Energy, and SBFC Finance. Investors are closely watching India's June inflation data and Singapore's Q2 growth rate. Its stocks are currently exerting downward pressure on Indian equity benchmarks. Yen Street deposited $567 to restart trading activities in India. Travel food services had a lower opening, valued at $1.67 billion, before increasing by 2% in trading. Bankers in India are seeking substantial 50% salary increases amidst heightened wealth hiring. Foreign portfolio investors, FPIs, are continuing their investment in Indian equities, marking the fourth consecutive month of net buying in July. The National Stock Exchange, NSE, plans to introduce monthly electricity futures, trading by July 25. NLC India is in advanced talks with a Russian company for lithium sourcing and plans to invest Rs 1.25 lakh crore by 2030, with a focus on renewable energy. India's crude oil imports from Russia hit an 11-month peak in June, influenced by Middle East tensions. Regarding India-China relations, the Chinese embassy has identified the Tibet issue as a sensitive area in bilateral ties. On the international stage, India has successfully managed Trump-era policies, but may need to take a firmer position soon. China is implementing a $42 billion consumer trade-in program to boost domestic spending amidst trade friction. China's exports exceeded expectations in June by diversifying markets beyond the U.S., despite existing tariffs. The U.S. military and drone manufacturers are allegedly lagging behind China in drone technology, according to tests in Alaska. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang stated that China's military doesn't need NVIDIA's chips for military advancements. E-waste recycling is growing to combat rare earth metal shortages arising from trade issues. Shanghai's West Bund is attracting corporations like BMW and Adidas as a new business hub. Luxury hotels are now offering street food to cater to evolving consumer tastes. Meituan reported a record 150 million daily orders amid competition with JD.com and Alibaba. President Xi Jinping aims to curb price wars. China is also developing a new maglev train with speeds up to 600 km/h. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov attended Shanghai Cooperation Organization meetings in China. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is in China to bolster trade ties, his second visit as Prime Minister. He's pushing for practical collaboration, especially in green steel, as Australian iron ore miners engage with Chinese steel manufacturers. Trade dynamics and security concerns heavily influence the Australia-China relationship. The Australian government has also clarified that it will not pre-commit troops to any future conflict. In business news, Abacus Storage King in Australia received an improved buyout offer of $1.43 billion. The Australian dollar declined from an 8-month peak, triggered by tariff threats from the United States. China faces a complex economic situation as Hong Kong stocks experienced volatility, affected by US tariff threats and positive domestic trade figures. Electric car maker Li Auto saw an increase, rising 2.9%. Trade and security issues are at the forefront of discussions during Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's visit to China, where he is promoting green steel and practical cooperation. The European Union is strategically pursuing stronger trade deals with India and other Asia-Pacific nations in response to potential tariffs from the United States. Concerns about possible US tariffs and their global trade effects have pushed gold rates higher in the domestic futures market, with MEX gold August 5 contracts hitting just 98,117 per 10 grams. The Australian dollar's decline from an 8-month high was directly linked to these US tariff threats. Saudi Arabia's robust financial sector has reached a valuation of $267 in 2024, a key achievement within the kingdom's vision 2030. Banking sector assets have notably increased, now totaling $1.20 trillion in 2024. In a move to liberalize investment, Gulf residents can now participate in the Tariff stock market. The industrial sector is also thriving, with over 1,300 new industrial licenses issued this year. To support this growth, the Public Investment Fund, PIF, launched Tasama, a business service provider. Agua Power Consortium has secured deals for renewable energy projects valued at $8.30 billion. SAP was recognized as the best bank in Saudi Arabia for 2025. Strengthening regional ties, Flair Deal is introducing 4 new routes to Pakistan. Singapore has emerged as the most expensive city globally for high net worth individuals, according to the 25 Julius Baer Global Wealth and Lifestyle report. Its economy narrowly avoided a technical recession, spurred by growth in manufacturing and construction sectors. Despite this positive momentum, officials caution about ongoing economic uncertainty. The real estate market in Singapore remains robust, evidenced by the successful launch of a new residential project where over 90% of units were sold following the implementation of new property curbs. The banking sector anticipates maintaining low risks in commercial real estate throughout the latter half of 2025. In financial news, Singapore is prioritizing the NTT REIT listing, particularly in comparison to IPO trends in Hong Kong. Japan's stock market saw a dip in the Nikkei 225 and Topix indexes amid worries about possible US tariffs and internal political uncertainty ahead of elections. Cryptocurrency investment firm MetaPlanet has expanded its portfolio, purchasing 797 Bitcoin as BTC's value exceeded $120,000. To enhance support for visiting tourists, new telemedicine services will allow tourists to seek medical advice before calling emergency services. Different from movements like MAGA, Reform, or Brexit, Japan's right-wing fringe elements have a unique character. Ukraine reports the successful elimination of Russian agents implicated in the assassination of a Ukrainian officer, escalating tensions between the two nations. Shifting to North Korea, leader Kim Jong-un met with Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov and voiced firm support for Russia's approach to resolving the conflict in Ukraine. Across the Atlantic in Washington and Kyiv, a significant announcement is expected from President Trump concerning Russia, possibly involving new sanctions. Adding to the narrative, a recently published book claims that former President Trump warned Putin he would bomb Moscow if Russia invaded Ukraine. Asian markets and trade. Asian nations are actively seeking new trade partners to mitigate the impact of tariffs. Concurrently, Negotiations with the U.S. continue. Emerging market bonds in Asia are experiencing a boost due to concerns about fiscal deficits. Invest Qatar and Qatar Free Zones Authority, QFZs, recently concluded a roadshow in Asia, which included strategic engagements in Japan. Dow futures dropped nearly 200 points following Trump's imposition of a 30% tariff on Mexico and the EU. President Donald Trump imposed a 30% tariff on goods from the European Union and Mexico. Getty meetings are scheduled to take place in South Africa. South Africa's President Ramaphosa suspended police minister. South Africa's Ramaphosa removes police minister over criminal link allegations. Earnings estimates for European firms have fallen due to uncertainty surrounding U.S. trade tariffs. European markets are expected to decline following Trump's imposition of a 30% tariff on the UI. France's Macron raises defense budget, says Europe. Under threat, France's agriculture food sector worst impacted by Trump tariffs. France says Australia defense ties repaired after submarine row. Trump tariffs live updates. Canada struck with 35% tariffs. Trump floats higher blanket rates. Asia-Pacific markets trade mixed after Trump hits. Canada with 35% tariffs. Muhammadu Buhari, Nigeria's aloof former president. These at 82 weekly market wrap. Banks drive the Nigerian stock market to a 7-week winning streak as ASI jumps 4.26%. Israel stocks lower at close of trade. Dow 35 down 2.33% Israel, and US plan joint $200 million quantum fund eyeing collaboration with UAE and Saudi Arabia. Potential tariffs on imports from Brazil, including a proposed 50% tariff by the US, could increase the prices of coffee and orange juice. Thailand's changing cannabis rules leave farmers in a tough spot. Black Pearl Group to acquire B2B Rocket in AI sales deal. Lebanon unifies with UAE, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia to boost luxury tourism amid financial crisis. Chinese EV brands have captured roughly 10% of the market share in Norway since January 2020. How to save money on your holiday to Switzerland as country hosts Women's Euro 2025, SP China Shenzhen Basketball, FIBA Women's Asia Cup Australia versus the Philippines, Uzbekistan's stock market infrastructure expands with rising trading volumes. Morocco's Mohammed VI Fund selects 14 firms to manage USD 2.1 B. Japan Embassy in Riyadh partners with IOM to fund Yemen youth training. Ferrari chair John Elkann settles inheritance tax dispute in Italy. Indonesia eyes technocrat as top US diplomat after 2-year gap. Lebanon bets on Gulf tourists to rescue its collapsing economy. KSA powers kingdoms. $266 BN vision for sustainable future. Malaysia to require permits on trade of high-end US AI chips. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.